It's time to upgrade the way you enjoy at-home entertainment. Alive Fiber is here. Enjoy all your favorite channels and streaming apps, all at lightning-fast internet speeds with affordable bundles, and it's only a click away. Visit www.alivefiber.com to sign up now. Stay connected, live your life. It's good to be alive.
Southwest Plaza has so many stores, I've been trying to find a sensible way to list them all. There's CBS Bahamas, the Ashai Institute, BENC Snack World, Bamboo Shack Bahamas. There the Athlete's Foot and BTC, Games and more, John Bull Fine Threads, Alive Bahari, Dairy Queen, 7 Hugs, Andy's Clocks and Island Luck, Starbucks and Lowe's Pharmacy, plus Marco's Pizza and Lorraine. Southwest Plaza, what a wide array of stores. Southwest Plaza, stop by today and explore.
You work hard for your money, so let your money work hard for you. With as little as $1,000 to start, you can watch your money grow by investing in CFAL's Bahamian dollar and US dollar mutual funds, each tailored to match your unique investment profile. Our expert advisors are dedicated to crafting personalized investment strategies to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't miss out on the chance to earn higher returns on your hard-earned money. Join the thousands of investors and start your journey toward financial freedom today. Visit us at cfal.com to learn more about our saving and investment options. And let us help you build wealth so you can live well. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Let's all go back in time and reflect into our minds. Back to the olden days, it was tough in many ways. They used to cook in iron pots with 3 legs. Wood to make fire was hard. Most people had to cook in the yard. Shucking corn was no thrill. We had to grind it in a mill. We put it in a fanner and sift. That's how we made yellow grits.
Good morning this morning. Welcome back to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, your station for fresh news, smart talk all day. It is Wednesday, the 28th of May, 2025, and you are on the clock with Erin Greene. It is budget day. It is budget day. Now, while you're looking at your personal budget and your family budget, and you're thinking about what you're going to do this summer, Guardian Media Group and Going Places Travel want to take you on a 7-day cruise for 4 to Panama, Colombia, Curacao, and Aruba on Royal Caribbean's Serenade of the Seas. And here's the best part. No visa required. That's right, no visa required. You have 4 ways to enter and 4 ways to win. Fill out the form in the Nassau Guardian. Or listen to Star 106.5 FM and Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Or follow us on Facebook and Instagram, or make a places travel. Entry deadline is June 27th, 2025, drawing on July 4th, 2025. So pack your bags, get ready to soak up the sun and feel that ocean breeze. You and 3 loved ones sailing the high seas on a vacation cruise of a lifetime. Brought to you by the Guardian Media Group and Going Places Travel. Certain conditions apply, airfare, taxes, and gratuities not included. Well, it's a Wednesday. It's Budget Wednesday, and so on the clock with Erin Greene and Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry, we're going to sit together to talk about the budget, and then we wait for the budget communication to begin in the House of Assembly, and we will transition from the communication back to the studio as breaks and time permit. Good morning, Mr. Newry.
Good morning. How you doing, Erin?
I am good. Thank you.
Did you notice that there's a lot of pomp and pageantry about this particular budget, more than usual? And the reason why I mention it is there seems to be like clips of advertisement. Like, and I said, this is different. Would they plan to say so, other than the regular numbers that they normally say, that there is need for like promotionals? So I'm not say concerned or excited. I said I just noticed that it's different.
Yeah. I'm concerned whenever it appears that people are governing by PR, right? But here's a breakdown from last year's budget, the 2024-2025 budget priorities. You can find this information on bahamasbudget.gov.bs. So bahamasbudget.gov.bs is the platform, the digital platform where the government, the Ministry of Finance, and all related ministries post budget information. They post the budget, they post the budget communications, and they post statistics, information in the budget. It's the best place to go to begin a conversation about the budget, except for sitting in the Ministry of Finance, right? And so that, again, that is bahamasbudget.gov.bs.
I also want to mention that it's expected that this budget communication by the Prime Minister himself will be 3 hours. He's going to be speaking for about 3 hours. And then after that, his ministries associated will be given their presentation after the Prime Minister has already
So
spoken.
communication starts first, and then the debate ensues. So for last year's budget, the 2024-2025 budget priorities, this is what I found on the government website, bahamasbudget.gov.bs. Budget for Security and Progress. That's what last year's budget was called.
Okay.
Here are the budget priorities for that budget: prudent fiscal management, expenditure control, Public Financial Management Act compliance. So there's a focus on, I guess, compliance to the Public Financial Management Act. Cloud Bahamas ERP system. And we know that this is, I think this is the revamping of mygateway.com. Public Sector Audit Committee. Tax arrears recovery. Revenue enhancement. State-owned enterprises reform, capital expenditure, fiscal responsibility council, debt management, and medium-term financial objectives.
Okay, and that was last year's budget?
So that's the 2024 budget.
25?
No, well, the 2024-2025 budget, but they refer to it by the year, right? So they also say this. So last year would have been the 2024 budget.
Okay.
Right? This year, what we expect to hear in the House today is the 2025-2026 budget.
Yeah.
And they may commonly refer to it as the 2025 budget.
Okay.
Right? And so that's from the website, bahamasbudget.gov.bs. I got a couple more statements, but
Yeah, I was thinking that has there ever been a review on the accomplishment of the budget? Like, you already dispersed the money, and the money that you said or allocated, this is the result of what we have invested.
Well, I can tell you to pull up bahamasbudget.gov.bs right now. Pull it up, because that, of course, is a great question. I think it does, right? I think the site itself does provide, over the course of the year, the post-budget analysis, right? I think they post a monthly review and various reviews on that website as well. bahamasbudget.gov.bs. I asking the public to follow along as well, right? If you are not driving and you have the time to hold a device in your hand. Okay, so on the website right now, we have featured the communication from the Prime Minister for last year's budget.
Okay.
We have the budget communication, the budget book. The budget book is a comprehensive summary of financial tables and budget line items representing approved allocations for government entities each fiscal year. The site includes right now the budget wrap-up for fiscal year 2023-2024, 2024-2025,
Yeah.
and they have a full budget wrap-up for 2023-2024, right? Then they have, would you call these, flyers.
Promotionals.
Yeah, I was going to, it's like an info something, but it's not an infomercial.
Yeah.
I mean, although all of it reads like an infomercial. Mm-hmm. This website, though, actually is, I think, one of the better of the new government. I expected to see more information on it like yesterday, leading into the opening of the budget debate. Like the statement from the Office of the Prime Minister that was posted yesterday on the OPM site in the press room. I expected that to have been uploaded already or simultaneously. So just quickly.
Oh, I need to send, I see Kermit just stepped out and April's at the board. I need to send her a video of the Prime Minister speaking. But I'll do it in a couple of seconds on your phone so you can upload it.
You get a couple clips.
Yeah,
but here's a question I wanted to ask Mr. Nuri without trivializing today's exercise, right? I noticed that you don't have on your red.
Red?
I have on my red shirt. They take in the red briefcase to the house.
Usually when you wear red, you talk about SAC. And I know Bahamas. So when I do wear red, I'm promoting a particular institution.
I mean, SAC is a big thing.
The big ball Saturday.
SAC, oh, well, yeah, that's a thing too. SAC is big thing, but is it bigger than the budget? And here's the question I wanted to throw out to the audience, right? What's more important, Mr. Nuri? Is it the budget communication and debate or the speech from the throne?
Both have different themes. The speech from the throne, I'm thinking, is more political in terms of what the transition from the party politics to the overarching policy of administration. Mm-hmm. And then the budget is how they plan to do it or the implementation of their policy. Okay,
so what do you think the business sector, financial sector, and economic sectors think is more important? You think they think the speech from the throne is more important, or the debate, the budget communication is more important? Now, for their sector, maybe, or what do they take more seriously?
The budget, because the budget is meat, right? One is saying we plan to do these things, but a budget suggests how immediate it is.
All right. Here's another question for you just before I go to the statement by the Office of the Prime Minister. Which one should we be reading the budget communication simultaneously with the speech from the throne? So should we as citizens, as stakeholders, should when the budget communication comes out, when it's published, like we can listen to it, we can have the speech from the throne next to us, but when we get the print in our hand, should we sit with both documents and try to see where they are in alignment and where they are not in alignment?
Well, in this country, the Bahamas, we have few political analysts who would have been their job to have these things juxtaposed and say, well, this is the promises from this administration from the beginning, and this is how they have implemented and the conclusion, whether they got 70% done, 60% or whatever. Mm-hmm. But we have few who do that and in depth or have a continuous conversation about these things throughout the years, the 1, 2, 3, up to the 5 years of the conversation. This budget, let me see if I can get it up, is the Prime Minister actually has indicated what he'll be concentrating on, right? He said the national budget today with a policy agenda focused on expanding access to infrastructure, services, economic opportunity throughout the country. You know, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, let me give a more detailed breakdown. You'll go to the Office of the Prime Minister page, search OPM Bahamas, you get a link, look to press room. This statement was posted yesterday, 27th of May, 2025, government to unveil 2025-2026 national budget focused on expanding opportunities island by island. And so the theme for this year's budget is expanding opportunities island by island. It reflects the government's strategic focus on equitable development throughout the country. The budget builds on the Progress One. I think there's a little bit of politics there. The budget will highlight targeted investments in infrastructure, education, healthcare, digital innovation, and economic empowerment, with a focus on job creation, small business support, and community resilience.
And there needs to be a measure of that, right? Are we able to question that statement post the budget debate or post the whatever the Prime Minister planned to deliver, the 3-hour speech? Can we come and say, well, this has been happening a long time, this is something new, and measure the delivery?
Well, we could do, right? You have to sit down with, say, the 2022-23 budget, the 2023-24 budget, 24-25, and then the new budget, right? So you sit down with 4 budgets. You need a group of people. So you could assign segments. So one person or one small group of 3 people are going to assess Ministry of Education over these 4 years, looking at the budget and then looking at the post-budget fiscal analysis provided on the website or by the Ministry of Finance.
You mentioned Ministry of Education. They have implemented a number of new, for my word, new school systems and programs, right? Will this speech from the throne...
budget communication.
Budget communication, will it enhance, add to what is already being implemented? Or will they be doing new things that has not been introduced as yet, right?
Right. And see, that's why I think like the speech from the throne and the budget as well, right? Because in the speech from the throne, they say, well, we're going to be doing these new things.
Yeah.
We could be expanding these things and sit and see whether that's true, whether what you're doing is actually an expansion of an existing program or whether you.
And April, if you're able to cue that that video I sent just now of the Prime Minister speaking, you can play that at will if you have it up now, so we can start off with that. Because we don't know when they start, and then... Okay, I see you look at me talking. Then when they start, we know we got to get the break. So I just want to go ahead. Yes, you go ahead.
To deliver this year's budget. If I were to sum it up in one phrase, it will be expanding opportunities for all. We've come through a lot together. So let's build on that progress. So stay tuned tomorrow. Let's stay together as we move forward in building a more fairer, prosperous Bahamas.
And that's just a short clip of the Prime Minister preempting his speech.
And it speaks to the theme, expanding opportunities island by island.
And let's talk about island by island.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, go ahead.
Absolutely. Yesterday's Tribune, it'll make a hell of a difference. Commentary or contributions from others in Eleuthera, the chamber, local government, speaking about their needs in Eleuthera. So go on.
And it mentioned, speaking about their needs, one would assume that, and I do assume, that the government has done its due diligence in terms of going to each family island and say, what do you need? What is it that you want to see? How are we trying to transform this particular island based on what the population needs, and not implementing things what the population do not want and say, well, see, I'm doing this for you,
right?
But I don't want that.
Is to ensure that central government is in alignment with local government,
Not
and
imposing.
And understanding that local government in each community is different, right? Like local government in South Andros maybe. And Mangrove Key in South Andros may be different from local government in North Andros.
So, like the southern Bahamas, what type of things, they say access to opportunities, what type of things does the southern Bahamas need?
Okay, so I think great question. For many of these family islands, it's not necessarily what we think it is on the surface. So 2 points, 2 weeks ago, the government had a stakeholder consultancy session with the Chamber of Commerce and participating chambers, right? The Chamber of Commerce and Employees Federation and participating family island chambers. I imagine that was an opportunity for those stakeholders to bring to the Prime Minister pre-budget, right? What some of their concerns are. When we look to an island like Eleuthera, their big ask is full access to available tax and other incentives, adding it will make a hell of a difference. That's the quote, right? Thomas Sands, chamber president in Eleuthera. But I think for an island like, say, an island like Michael, where people have been surviving, right, outside of major sustainable development, what they need is infrastructure, like Long Island. They need consistent, reliable infrastructure. They need water that will run when you turn the tap on, that you could betcha, you could swear your children by it, right? They need communication systems that work. They need banking systems that work and are applicable and relevant to the economic models that they have in Long Island. Long Island got a big second home market, and they got it's the lack of infrastructure that's causing the deterioration of Long Island's economy. The Jeans Blue Hole Dive experience, the company that organized what they call the world's best free dive competition, pulled out. And the reason they said was there's a lack of infrastructure. And crumbling infrastructure makes it not as attractive as it used to be as a site. But mind you, see, think about it. They can't go find another Dean's Blue Hole anywhere else in the world. There's only one. So what would cause them to pull out as opposed to attempt to make it work? Well, they've been attempting to make it work over decades, just like the people of Long Island. And right now, they have limited to non-existent banking services. I mean, a few months ago, they couldn't say when the water was going to be on, right? And I'm sure, like Eleuthera, various parts of Eleuthera mainland and exterior islands, they also still experiencing intermittent and regular power issues and water issues to the extent that it interferes with their economy.
You mentioned banking or lack of banking on a number of family islands. Do you expect that to be addressed in today's budget? That what is the government's plan to have family islands have access to proper banking?
Well, listen, when I see targeted investments in infrastructure, that's what I expect, right? Like, at the very least, you enhance the post office system, allowing more services or enabling more services to take place in that system, and you incentivize the banks to operate. Like, I guess if the government have to build a building and the bank just send the staff and put in their equipment.
I don't think the banks are short money, so it can't afford the building. That's small things. I think it's the operation. So what can the government do in terms of having a satellite operation?
You get an. What do you mean by satellite operation?
Using technology, a broader
But
system
this is
the
it.
ATM machine.
We have the digital dollar, the sand dollar available to us. There's online banking, right, that does not cover the entirety of services that people need.
Yeah.
But then you have to rely on communication services, and you have to rely on power services, right? And that's where they've fallen down.
Yeah. Like islands of Eleuthera who've been complaining for decades about power, insufficient power.
And inconsistencies and disruptions, the
Water.
extent to which damage equipment. Yeah.
Do you believe that this budget will address that?
No.
Or should this budget? Oh God. Or should this
Okay,
budget?
here's what I
address
mean.
that?
I think the budget is going to address it. Is it going to address it substantively? Is it going to address it in a way that will actually derive, generate, or create solutions? I am not sure about that. I mean, because where does the problem lie? Does the problem lie in the service provision, or does the problem lie in the bureaucracy, right, surrounding the service provision? We saw the company in Eleuthera, top of the year, threatening to pull out. We saw this back and forth between the government and the company. We saw the statements by the court, right? And my question in that instance is it that really caused the lack of clarity, right? And imbalance, or whatever was the conflict in that relationship? Are people supposed to wait to get paid? Is it the bureaucracy that's causing the issue? Is it the politics that's causing the issue? Because these are easily solvable problems. And growing up in Eleuthera, in the summers on the family island from 5 years old to 18, and now I'm 49. That's 30 years after I stopped summer camping. And they still having the same issues in Eleuthera on the family island, and the same lack of clarity, lack of certainty, and lack of transparency around the path to the solutions.
During the last election, there was a debate about access or lack of access, or that's the Bahamian dream, to have access to, we're going to take a quick commercial break, have access to the government facilities. I want to understand, what do you think access means? So when people are listening to the budget debate and they interpret it, whether this is understand what the common man is interpreting,
right,
what access is.
As we go into the break right now, producer, and have you cut it, the budget communication in and of itself is not access. And that they make it is not something to celebrate.
Yes.
There's far more that goes into it.
Needs to be tangible.
Right, and so I'm so happy to hear or to see the use of the word equitable.
Equitable is a big word.
Right, that they understand that for equitable access, it means that they must provide access at every level. The uneducated man, the illiterate man, the Harvard degree. Good morning to Harvard and all the Bahamian students trying to get abroad. Right? It's far more than just, we have a budget communication and you could turn in on Facebook or ZNS. We're going to a break. When we get back from the break, I think we're going to be preparing to lead in to the 2025-2026 National Budget Communication.
Yes, and I want to say good morning to Radina Baston from NIB and also Miss Tammy Culmer Francis. They're doing big things at NIB and they're sackers. I just want to give a big shout out to those two ladies.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Thread strings through holes, designed for the heels and toes. Feel like talking, let's talk. And you're sure about walking, we walking. Then let's take a walk. If you're ready, and let's talk, we'll talk.
Throughout history, from bartering in ancient markets to the invention of paper currency, convenience has been at the heart of the way we pay. As time marched on, so have we, from barter to cash and cash to digital. Whether you pay with an online bank transfer, digital wallet, or digital payments, options abound. The world never stops evolving, and neither should you. Choose freedom, choose flexibility, choose convenience. The future of pay is digital. Visit us online at livedigitalbahamas.com and on social media.
For fast, reliable, and impactful printing services, look no further. Let Printmasters bring your masterpiece to life. We stand by our quality products that is second to none. Our affordable pricing and friendly, efficient staff makes Printmasters the ultimate choice for all your printing needs. We can deliver any type of printing services, from banners to booklets to business cards. You name it, we can print it.
Let Printmasters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
At Cleveland Clinic, care is everything. So when your primary purpose is to care for the world, you'd start with your community until you're accessible anywhere. You make complexities your specialties and put compassion before anything else, all to redefine what's possible. For everyone, everywhere. For every care in the world. Cleveland Clinic.
Just sign in and have a seat, please. They'll call you in for your x-ray shortly.
That's why they call it a waiting room. You won't have that problem at Fourth Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor. We never schedule multiple appointments, so you'll be in and out in no time. And if your initial screening reveals a concern, our radiologist can conduct an alternative screening right then and there. Call 328-8157 to schedule an appointment at Fourth Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor today.
Measles is on the rise around the world, and the Bahamas is at risk,
which makes us very vulnerable as a nation for the possible outbreak of measles cases.
Every Saturday in May from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Ministry of Health and Wellness will host MMR immunization visits in South Beach, Coconut Grove. Clinics in these areas will remain open until 8 p.m. twice per week. Get your child immunized now.
It's time to give away a cruise Guardian Media Group and Going Places Travel wants to take you on a 7-day cruise for 4 to Panama, Colombia, Curacao, and Aruba on Royal Caribbean's Serenade of the Seas. And here's the best part. No visa required. That's right, no visa required. You have 4 ways to enter, 4 ways to win. Number 1, fill out the form in the NASA Guardian. Number 2, listen to Star 106.5 and Guardian Radio 96.9. Number 3, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Number 4, or make a purchase at any Going Places Travel. Entry deadline is June 27th, 2025. Drawing will be taking place on July 4th, 2025. So you know what that means? Pack your bags and get ready to soak up the sun and feel the ocean breeze. You and 3 loved ones sailing the high seas on a vacation cruise of a lifetime. Brought to you by the Guardian Media Group and Going Places Travel. Certain conditions apply. Airfare, taxes, and gratuities not included.
This is Guardian Radio FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.
Let's all go back in time and reflect into our minds. Back to the olden days, it was tough in many ways. They used to cook in iron pots with 3 legs.
And welcome back to On the Clock with Erin Greene. Of course, this is C.A. Nuri. And I'm just want to know, ask Erin, what is the link? Is there a link to hear the budget for today? And give me that link earlier that you
Okay, so bahamasbudget.gov.bs is the budget website. That's where you get all the budget information. And I'm hoping in short order, like by the end of today or midday at the end of the PM speech communication, that'll be uploaded to the website. Now, in terms of tuning into the conversation, I think ZNS's Facebook page, you wait for it to go live. Yeah. I'm sure Eyewitness, Our News, check their social media pages to see if they're going live, as well as the television. But go to OPM. Yeah. Go to Office of the Prime Minister, Bahamas, search that, go to the website, and often they go to the live feed to the page as well.
I have this, not critique, or a question we asked earlier. What's the difference between, or what is more important, the speech from the throne or the budget communication? Yeah. This texter said, the speech from the throne is dreams, I guess promises, right? And the budget communication is harsh realities.
All right, and here's why I think it's an important question. I think it's a good question, but for me, in the framing of that question, because I constantly think about: are we running a nation? Are we running an economy? Or are we running a country? Right? And a nation is a composition of laws, legislation, principles, right? That create a country, a nation state. A country is a...
Okay, look like we're going to the budget live now.
We're going to the budget...
No, continue.
Okay, we can continue to talk, but...
No, we're going to the budget live now. Okay, so we'll take this quick break. Go ahead, Erin.
Absolutely.
Opportunities and create a new era of progress and renewal. Madam Speaker, the 2025-2026 budget reflects the values and policies laid out in detail in our blueprint for change and builds on the progress of our 3 previous budgets. Our agenda is focused on security, opportunity, affordability, and reform. Security, which encompasses multiple goals, from national security to personal security, or personal safety. Opportunity, which requires growing our economy and investing in our people. Affordability, which means pushing against global and local inflationary pressure, lower prices wherever possible. And reform, because our ability to make crucial investments in our people were possible because of fiscal discipline And because if we want the best outcomes, we need to modernize government services and make them more responsive to the people. In this budget, briefly, our expenditure and policy actions include measures to, for the very first time since independence, we have finally secured the achievement of a balanced budget. Madam Speaker, more than a balanced budget, a budget with a surplus. We have modernized government for better and more effective governance. We provide affordability by securing our food supply. We've stimulated private sector investments across the Family Islands. We're ensuring that Bahamians benefit from the use of our natural resources, securing better health outcomes for our citizens, investing in critical sectors such as education, healthcare, national security, and environmental protection. And of course, we're strengthening public infrastructure across the archipelago. Madam Speaker, the headwinds we have faced, despite all the hardship, we are now a country on the move. Together, we are confronting our most difficult challenges, the ones that have held us back for too long, and it is the determination and the ingenuity of our people that is powering our country's progress. Governments can write smart laws and implement innovative policies, but those laws and policies can only create substantial and enduring change if we work in close partnership with the Bahamian people. So as I speak today, and in the coming weeks, about advances already underway, and as we describe our plan to build on and expand that progress, I want to recognize that our nation's gains and successes are possible only because of our extensive collaboration with the men, their ideas, their talents, and their smarts to moving our country forward. Madam Speaker, many Bahamians saw for themselves the spirit and the resourcefulness of their fellow citizens during the pandemic, when people who lost their jobs turned talents and interest into new business ventures, evidence of the no-quit character I referred to earlier. But we won't soon forget the harsh conditions we faced in 2020 and 2021. I spent a lot of time with families in which everyone of working age had lost their jobs. The mummies, the daddies, the uncles, the aunties, the young people, entire families with no real money coming in, along with frustration. There was real fear. The lockdowns, the curfews, the travel visas, the fines, the punishments, it was clear that these made a bad situation worse. Our hospitals, schools, and communities were in terrible shape. A lot of people were hurting. It was under these circumstances we asked the Bahamians to give us the opportunity to lead the country out of crisis. In our economic plan and in our blueprint for change, we laid out a detailed vision for recovering, rebuilding, and revolutionizing our country's economy. Yes. We knew we had a big task ahead of us. We knew that rescuing the country from the worst fiscal and economic crisis we'd ever face was going to be a big lift. Yes. But we also knew, as bad as things were, that recovery could not be the ultimate goal. Recovery had to be a stop on that journey to something better. Because Even in the best of times in the past, too many Bahamians have been left out of our economy. Celebrating our landmark independence anniversary, the 50th anniversary, reminded us how far we have come as a small independent nation, but also underscored how much work there is left to do to meet the promise of independence. It is the honor of my lifetime to spend my days working hard alongside my colleagues to do what we can to fulfill that promise, to create opportunities that reach every island and lift up every Bahamian family. Even though economic recovery was never our final destination, even though our ambition is to create a new era of growth and opportunity, there was never going to be a shortcut. There was no way to skip the rescue and recovery steps. We always knew we would need to put in the time and effort required to dig out of a very deep hole. The choices we made fuel our country's economic recovery. It's a recovery that independent experts, I repeat that, it's a recovery that independent experts have called remarkable. Precisely because the pace and magnitude of the recovery was in no way inevitable. We made policy decisions about curfews and travel visas and free testing that were distinct from those of our predecessors. We ended policies that were keeping businesses closed down and people out of work. And even as we pulled the country back from a fiscal cliff, we raised the minimum wage. That's right. And just let me say, it's yet not high enough, but raising it was a step in the right direction. Yes. We signed new labor agreements. We approved new forms of relief. The decisions we made and the policies we carried out ended the speculation about downgrades and currency devaluation. And as you'll hear in more detail shortly, we have since then continued to strengthen considerably our country's finances. We did not sit back and hope good things would happen. We made good things happen. Yes. We have actively promoted the country. We have actively promoted the country, creating new investments, new jobs, and new opportunities. $10 billion of private sector investment later, alongside hundreds of millions of government-led investments, we are still at it, still actively creating opportunities, not just hoping for them. We have built important relationships with other leaders and countries around the world, an important task for a small nation looking to leverage the influence of coalitions that can be exerted on the global stage. We have created innovative climate finance arrangements, one of which alone will save our country more than $120 million. To the Bahamas, we have strengthened partnerships to protect our borders. Our efforts removed the country from the blacklist, and our Attorney General is now playing an influential role in the United Nations Committee that is rewriting many of the rules that will affect our financial system. We have not had that kind of influence before, and a seat at the table matters. Yes. Madam Speaker, there's so much more. From expanding urban renewal, to renovating clinics, to taking action on the backlog of thousands of promotions in our public service, to signing a record number of agreements with labor unions. We have served, more than 1 million free hot breakfasts to our school children. I'm lucky enough to, from time to time, to stop by and share breakfast with the children and to say hello. as they enjoy their breakfast. And let me tell you something. The food vendors, the teachers, the staff, aren't just serving nutritious meal. They're serving hope and they're serving love. School breakfast reflects our belief that our children deserve a chance to start their day ready to learn. That's why our new budget expands the program, ensuring it will soon reach every one of our government's This new initiative is the first time free breakfasts have been served in our schools. In fact, a lot of firsts. Yes. That's what challenging the status quo requires. Racking up firsts. We launched our country's first National Youth Guard. Yes. The country's first significant national service program, which gives young people training to support our security services during a national emergency. And along with that, we give them job-ready skills that help them find good work. And I will tell you, almost at least 90% of those persons who went through the 4 cohorts we've had, nearing 100 in each cohort, each of them are now gainfully and meaningfully employed. We are the first couple to put free Wi-Fi in the parks. And as we say, education is the tool to success, or the key to success. We are the first to conduct a nationwide learning assessment in all of our schools. Allowing us to assess learning needs more precisely. That's under the guidance and leadership of the Minister of Education, the warrior from Eggleston. The first to launch the Golden Yoke program. And like I say, the first to take diversifying our trade relationships seriously, with a new trade office and support for Bahamian exporters and importers. We are the first government to meaningfully stand up to the Port Authority, the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Insisting that they carry out their obligations to the people and communities of Grand Bahama. And we are the first government to pass a law. Listen to this one, man. We're the first government to pass a law ensuring intellectual property rights for our artists and other creators, so that they can benefit fully from what they produce. I'll speak over the next few weeks more details about these and many other firsts. And then, momentarily, I turn to the detailed review of microeconomic conditions and our financing activities, an update on our fiscal strategy and more. I'm pleased to say that in this arena, too, we have achieved an important first. The first government in an independent Bahamas to produce a budget surplus. Without sacrificing and/or robbing the delivery of services to our people, and continuing on our promises, delivering upon our promises as contained in our blueprint for change. Madam Speaker, We have made substantial gains, strengthening our country's fiscal outlook and our economy. But before I share the good news, I want to say this. We know that our country's recovery and growth have not reached all Bahamians. I repeat that. Yes. I want to say we know that our country's recovery and growth have not yet reached all Bahamians. Good numbers on a spreadsheet are better than bad ones. But we sit under a lot of pressure. People struggling to find good paying work they can rely on. People who worry about how or even whether they can build a secure future. Madam Speaker, in order to create in the Bahamas a dynamic, inclusive economy that generates more opportunities in order to construct more ladders to security and to success, we need to do two things. Let me please say it again. In order to construct more ladders to security and success, we need to do two things. First, we have to create more opportunities. We have to build on the record levels of investments we have seen over the last several years and continue to create conditions that encourage innovation and economic growth. That means everything from major new investments in infrastructure to modernizing our laws and regulations to revamping our nation's entire power grid to give us more reliable, more affordable electricity. All of these changes and many more are in motion. And as we review these investments together during this budget debate, I think it will be clear how they are designed to help generate many more of top quality opportunities our people deserve. That leads me to the second crucial imperative, making sure that Bahamians are ready in every way to step up and seize these. That means major new investments in education and training and upskilling. It means strategic investments and grants for entrepreneurs. It means effective advocacy for the hiring and promotion of Bahamians. It means lowering and removing the barriers that are standing in the way of our people. Madam Speaker, our people deserve the education, training, and opportunities that matches their talent and ambition. That is why, in this budget, we are building on our gains in education and training with substantial new and historic investments in our people. Our younger citizens, still in school, of course, deserve the best and the most modern education we can provide. Yes. But I'm talking about all Bahamians who want more. Bahamians who are working hard to take care of their families. Bahamians who want to be able to think more than 1 month at a time. Bahamians who are searching for their path to economic security. Bahamians who want and deserve an opportunity to have an ownership stake in our Bahamians who are dreaming of a better life. Yes. The ambitions and the aspirations of the Bahamian people are at the heart of this budget. Yes. As we navigate, Madam Speaker, forward through a time of fascinating possibilities, but also a time of disruption and danger, we believe that our country's success depends on developing the talents of our people. How can we achieve our country's greatest national ambitions? Any answer to that must prioritize helping more Bahamians achieve their personal ambitions. We are committed to providing skills and training and the access to lifelong learning opportunities that are quickly becoming essential in this era. We have to move past the limited, outdated, and old-fashioned ideas of what success looks like. Our people have a myriad of talents, and there are a multitude of paths to fulfillment and security and prosperity. Madam Speaker, the 2025 budget further builds on our core priorities and on our achievements to date. The first section of the budget communication presents an analysis of the current microeconomic and fiscal conditions, as well as the outlook which underpins the framework for this year's budget proposals. There is then a discussion of significant financial developments in the Bahamas. Subsequently, some of the key policy measures outlined in this budget are presented. Madam Speaker, and future developments of our small, open economy are deeply linked to the global, and especially the U.S., economic developments. It is therefore essential to begin with an assessment of the global economic climate, which has deteriorated sharply at the beginning of 2025. This was due to heightened trade policy tensions globally, weakened consumer and business sentiment, and a latent resurgence in inflationary pressures. According to the latest IMF World Economic Outlook published last month, the growth of global output is expected to slow to 2.8% this year, down from 3.3% in 2024, and a full 1/2 point weaker than the rate projected only 4 months ago. World output growth in 2026 is forecast at 3%. The growth of global trade in 2025 has also been marked down by virtually 1/2 to 1.7%, as compared to the projection of 3.2% in January 2025. Global inflation is projected to decline to 4.3% in 2025 and 3.6% in 2026, rates that are slightly higher than in the January forecast. Needless to say, the global economic environment we confront as we set our policy and fiscal priorities for 2025-2026 budget is one replete with challenges. We developed this budget with a full appreciation of the risks and the uncertainties. I now turn to a review of recent and prospective economic developments in the United States, our major trading partner. While the U.S. economy remains resilient by many measures, a notable slowdown is now widely anticipated. More specifically, real GDP declined at an annual rate of 0.3% in the first quarter of 2025, following a stronger performance of 2.4% in the last quarter of 2024. This recent decline has been attributed primarily to a rise in imports and weaker government expenditure. Real growth for 2025 is forecast at 1.8%, a slowdown from 2.8% in 2024. Growth is pegged at 1.7% in 2026. These new forecasts represent downgrades of 0.9% and 0.4 percentage points from the forecast of just 4 months ago. The U.S. labor market in 2024 featured an increase in the unemployment rate to 4%. In April 2025, unemployment remained largely unchanged at 4.2%, and this is expected to continue for the rest of this year. In 2024, inflation fell to 3%, and by April 2025, annual inflation stood at 2.3%, which remains above the Federal Reserve's inflation goal. The IMF anticipates the U.S. inflation rate to average 3% in 2025 and 2.5% in 2026, suggesting that the Federal Reserve is likely to remain vigilant and steadfast in the setting of U.S. monetary policies going forward. As a result of these economic conditions, Moody's Ratings downgraded the United States credit rating by 1 notch to capital A, small a1, AA1. This downgrade reflects growing concerns about the U.S. long-term fiscal trajectory and institutional constraints, which could hinder timely policy responses to future economic challenges. Turning to our neighbor to the north, Canada's economy has shown a modest but relatively steady upward momentum. The Canadian economy grew by an estimated 1.5% in 2024, and it is the most stable performers among the G7 nations in 2025. The outlook for Canada remains cautiously optimistic, with projected growth of around 1.4% in 2025. However, some concerns persist, particularly in relation to trade dynamics and the risk of rising unemployment. Canada's unemployment rate stands at 6.9% as of April 2025 and is projected by the IMF to average 6.6% in 2025 and 6.5% in 2026. Inflation in Canada has declined within its target range of 1 to 3% and currently sits at 2.3% as of March 2025, slightly below the comparable U.S. rate. The IMF projects the inflation rate to average 2% in 2025 and 2.1% in 2026. In 2024, Madam Speaker, real GDP growth in the euro area remained modest, estimated at 0.9%, with a slight decline projected to 0.8% in 2025. Inflation has continued to ease, reaching 2.2% as of March 2025, a decrease from 2.4% in 2024, and is expected to decline further to 2.1% by year end. The employment outlook in the euro area presents a mixed picture. As of the unemployment rate was estimated at 6.2%, a fall from 6.4% in 2024, with a projected increase to 6.4% by the end of the year. This is mainly due to weaker labor demand and demographic challenges. Madam Speaker, China's real GDP grew by 5% in 2024, but that momentum is expected to moderate, with growth projected at 4% in 2025. China's urban unemployment rate stood at 5.2% in March 2025, down slightly from the previous year's 5.1%. Unemployment is projected at 5.1% for the end of 2025. Meanwhile, consumer prices fell by 0.1% year on year in March of 2025, marking the second consecutive month of deflation. For the rest of 2025, consumer prices are expected to remain flat, with a slight uptick to 0.6% next year. Our Latin America and Caribbean region recorded real GDP growth of 2.4% in 2024, and its growth outlook for 2025 is slightly more restrained, with the IMF projecting growth at 2%. This forecast reflects both the underlying structural issues and broader global economic pressures that continue to influence the region's trajectory. Madam Speaker, the United States remains the Bahamas' principal trading partner, accounting for approximately 83.3% of our total imports in 2024. That was valued at approximately $5 billion. This long-standing economic partnership is also reflected in our tourism sector, where in 2024, 84% of our stopover visitors originated from the United States. While this close relationship has yielded considerable benefits, it also underscores our exposure to developments in the U.S. economy. Any slowdown or heightened economic uncertainty in that market can have a direct impact on Bahamian trade and tourism. This sensitivity is particularly relevant considering recent policy announcements from the United States, specifically the proposed imposition of a 10% tariff on all Caribbean nations, including the Bahamas. Such a measure, if implemented, tourists and visitor arrivals. In this context, the government is committed to pursuing constructive dialogue with our U.S. and CARICOM partners to address the implications of this policy shift in a manner that protects and promotes mutual economic interests. Madam Speaker, what I can say is that well before the election of the current U.S. President, my government had taken proactive steps to strengthen our economic resilience through the adoption of a national trade policy. One of the first for our country that I alluded to earlier. This policy lays the foundation for a diversification framework that seeks to broaden our export base and reduce over-independence on any single market. At the core of these efforts is a commitment to ensuring that global trade developments do not unduly disadvantage Bahamian businesses or consumers. The government has also been collaborating with the private sector to explore enhanced trade opportunities with Canada, Dominican Republic, Ghana, and India, while also investigating new shipping channels and logistical solutions. Let me share one example. The average price of a dozen eggs in the Bahamas currently stands at around $3.79. In comparison, during the period when eggs were primarily imported, had soared to as much as $10 per dozen due to the devastating impact of bird flu on the American poultry industry. In response, with government support, the private sector was able to shift its sourcing to the Dominican Republic, which not only stabilized supply, but also resulted in a significant economic benefit for Bahamian consumers by reducing costs. The Golden Yolk program that I spoke of earlier had a beneficial impact on pricing as well. Currently, the price of eggs in Florida averages around $5.60 per dozen. The fact that Bahamian consumers are paying less highlights the positive impact and strategic advantage of diversifying our trade partnerships. Madam Speaker, according to the Bahamas National Statistical Institute, economic activity demonstrated a positive trend in 2024, with nominal growth recorded at 3.7% and real growth at 3.4% when compared to 2023. The IMF has projected that real economic growth in the Bahamas will moderate to 1.8% in 2025. The GDP figures are expected to be improved in the future as part of the Institute's revision policy. This policy allows for regular revision of the GDP data as more accurate and complete information becomes available. We have witnessed a commendable upward growth in our nation's GDP since 2019. In real GDP terms, we have progressed from contractions of 0.8% in 2019 and 20.1% in 2020 to positive growth of 3.4% in 2024. In nominal terms, GDP has moved from 3.6% growth in 2019 and a subsequent 21.9% decline in 2020 to an expansion of 3.7% in 2024. These figures, Madam Speaker, represent the highest output ever recorded for this country. In fact, when comparing our GDP per capita to our neighbors, the Bahamas stands ahead of tourism-driven island nations and St. Lucia. This higher GDP per capita indicates that the Bahamian economy is performing strongly, with our people contributing significantly to national productivity and economic output. In 2024, the Bahamas GDP per capita is estimated at $38.9 thousand, compared to $7,300 for Jamaica, and $14,000 for St. Lucia, and $24,600 for Barbados. If you take a look at that, Madam Speaker, it tells you where we are. Our GDP, our per capita GDP, is now at $38,900. A deeper look into our GDP offers key insights into our national economic performance. Consumption, particularly household consumption, rose by 3.1% in 2024 on the basis of an uptick in consumer confidence. The household expenditure survey will soon be completed by BNSI, and this will have an important impact on the consumption data that feeds into the GDP calculation. Our country's construction industry experienced strong momentum, expanding by 19% in 2024, supported by high and increased imports of construction materials. Similarly, due to a broader adoption of digital technologies across the Bahamas, the information and communication sector saw a significant rebound, growing by 21.5%, a reversal of the previous year's 1.3% decline. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing industries also contributed to growth, with the sector expanding by 21% in 2024, reflecting the government's ongoing investment in revitalizing domestic food production through targeted agricultural programs and project regeneration efforts. While on the topic of GDP, I would like to address the statistical discrepancies found in the 2024 GDP tables. On Monday of this week, BNSI released a clarification regarding the 2024 advanced estimates of GDP. In line with their press release, statistical discrepancies or errors and omissions do not imply that the numbers have been misrepresented. Rather, they reflect the differences between the two methods used to calculate GDP: the production approach and/or the expenditure approach. It is important that we trust the professionals at BNSI. It's unfortunate that the former Minister of State for Finance would choose to undermine the technical staff of the very institution he once depended on while in office. If he had any concerns, the appropriate course of action would have been to address them directly with BNSI's technical team. These are the same experts whose work he relied upon during his tenure. Undermining their credibility without just cause is disrespectful and risks eroding confidence in our country's economic data. Madam Speaker, tourism, the cornerstone of the Bahamian economy, achieved historic heights in 2024. A record-breaking $11.2 million international visitors were welcomed to our shores in 2024, surpassing the 9.7 million arrivals recorded in 2023. Foreign air arrivals totaled 1.7 million in 2024, holding steady with 2023 levels and outperforming 2019 figures by 3.3%. Cruise arrivals total 9.4 million. Let me repeat that again. Cruise arrivals total 9.4 million in 2024, reflecting year-over-year growth of 20.6% and surpassed 2019 levels by 72.1%. All I say, Madam Speaker, there are a lot of countries with beautiful beaches, but not as beautiful as those in the Bahamas. And apart from our most beautiful beaches, we mentioned the best people, best culture and cuisine. We know this, and we work hard to make sure others do too, while diversifying our offerings within tourism and prioritizing innovation and constant improvements, which is why the Bahamas is only growing as a premier travel destination. The result? More than $10 billion in foreign direct investments over the past 2 years. Another important first. This includes partnerships with globally recognized luxury brands such as Rosewood, Montage, Park Hyatt, Bulgari, Four Seasons Residences, Margaritaville, and of course, Concord Wilshire Capital, the new owners of Grand Lucayan Hotel in Grand Bahama. These investments will not only bolster economic output, but are enhancing the international profile of the Bahamas, particularly when of the high end of tourism market. Madam Speaker, several new announced and ongoing projects are expected to generate meaningful economic activity across various islands with significant impacts on employment, government revenue, and the broader investment climate. Notable among these is the development of Royal Caribbean's Royal Beach Club on Paradise Island, a transformative project valued at approximately $110 million. Implemented under a public-private partnership model, this initiative will allow Bahamians to hold up to 49% equity in that project, ensuring robust economic gains. The Beach Club is anticipated to open this year. Also underway is the development of Celebration Key in East Grand Bahama, a private cruise destination designed exclusively for Carnival Corporation. This project is expected to welcome its first guests in the coming weeks. This project is one of the reasons things is finally on the upswing. Elutra is also seeing notable investments, including a $360 million development of the Ritz-Carlton, which is already underway. Madam Speaker, inflation in 2024 remains subdued, with the rate standing at 0.4% and forecast to rise modestly to 0.9% in 2025. This signals relative price stability, which is essential for maintaining consumer and investor confidence. The latest unemployment figure stands at 8.7%, which is down appreciably from 9.5% in 2019. This unemployment rate is the lowest since 2008. And is a significant recovery from the peak of 25.6% experienced in 2020. The government expects sustained improvement in tourism and foreign direct investment to further stabilize the unemployment rate in the medium term. I will now, Madam Speaker, review the fiscal performance from July 2024 to March 2025, the first 3 quarters of the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Start with revenue performance. Before presenting the 9-month fiscal performance, it is important to highlight that the revenue performance for the month of April 2025 is at a high level. Typically, the month of April contributes approximately 12% to the total revenue intake over a 10-month period. According to the latest preliminary financial data, April 2025 is consistent with this trend, accounting for approximately 13% of total revenue over the 10-month period. The preliminary financial data shows revenue specifically for the month of April 2025 at $352.7 million. The strong revenue performance in April suggests that fourth quarter revenue performance will be very strong as well. Now on to the 9-month fiscal performance in detail. Total revenue amounted to $2.5 billion in the initial 9 months of the fiscal year. This marks an increase of $266.3 million, or 12.2% as compared to the same period in the previous fiscal year. At the end of March 2025, total revenue stood at 69.4% of the budget forecast. This revenue performance resulted from a boost in tax revenue of $243.2 million to a total of $2.2 billion. Tax revenue amounted to 70% of the budget forecast. Key revenue highlights during these 9 months are as follows. Taxes on property grew by $27.3 million and totaled $172.9 million, representing 75.2% of the budget target. This period-over-period increase was driven by improved receipts from taxes on commercial and foreign-owned undeveloped properties that together expanded by $25.9 million. To strengthen collection efforts, most of which were collected from non-Bahamians. As Bahamians found themselves in a position to make more purchases, VAT receipts expanded by $50.8 million and amounted to $1 billion, accounting for 68.9% of the budget forecast. Continued improvement in economic activity and domestic demand for goods and services has sustained the resilience of VAT revenues. Since the fiscal year 2021-2022, when the VAT rate was adjusted to 10%, VAT receipts have demonstrated notable growth, rising from $210.4 million, or 18.5% by the end of last full fiscal year. This growth reflects both the resilience of the VAT system and the underlying strength of our economy. Despite this improved performance in the overall VAT collections, this administration believes that VAT on real estate is still. We will be proposing additional measures to close loopholes in the collection of this tax. In recognition of this progress, and in keeping with our commitment to ensure that fiscal gains benefit Bahamians, this administration implemented a reduction in the VAT rate on food from 10% to 5%. Which became effective on the 1st of April this year. Later in this communication, I will outline further VAT reductions in this upcoming budget year. This measure is part of our broader strategy for a more affordable Bahamas. Stamp taxes on financial transactions and VAT on real estate transactions were higher by $12.3 million and totaled $94.7 million, or 68.8% of the budget estimate. Licenses to conduct special business activity driven by business license receipts rose by $36.4 million, $7 million. To date, this represents 67.2% of the budget forecast. Likewise, company taxes, led by business tax receipts from international business companies, improved by $11.7 million and amounted to $27.3 million and equated 90.4% of the budget target. Taxes on international trade and transactions decreased by $125 million and totaled $627.3 million, for a 75.5% of its budget target. This was driven by the uptick in departure tax collections of $121.1 million that totaled $255.1 million, surpassing the budget target by $13.8 million, or 5%. This positive outcome is driven by two factors: sustained improvement in our tourism sector and recent reform to cruise passenger-related taxes.
They don't look happy.
Non-tax revenue expanded by $22.8 million to $258.2 million, accounting for 65.5% of the budget. This was driven by gains in immigration and custom fees, along with surplus bank fees. I now turn to expenditure performance during the 9 months of the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Total expenditure increased by $238.8 million to $2.6 billion. During this fulfilled 73% of the budget target. Specifically, recurrent expenditure rose by $199.9 million to a total of $2.4 billion, accounting for 72.5% of the budget forecast. This increase reflects the following: outlays on the compensation of employees, which was increased by $20 million to a total of $649 million, which represents 73% of the budget target. A part of this increase was driven by a $7.1 million increase in NIB payments from the government attributed to the recent rate increase. Pension and gratuity payments rose by $11.2 million to $148.6 million, accounting for 78.3% of the budget target. Spending on the use of goods and services rose by $82.4 million, amounting to $514.2 million and equating to 74.8%. Rise was driven by payments of utilities, special financial transactions, and acquisition of services, including a $7.1 million increase for catastrophic health care services. Interest payments on public debt increased by $38.2 million to a total of $447.3 million and amounted to 68.1% of the budget forecast. Payments on foreign currency obligations totaled $227.8 million, or 50.9% of the total, while payments on domestic debt obligations totaled $219.5 million, or 49.1% of the total. Lastly, subsidies primarily to non-financial public operations grew by $25.1 million to $338 million, for 82.1% of the budget. Likewise, other transfers, mostly to non-financial public operations, expanded by $35.6 million to $194.1 million, for 69.3% of the budget target. Among these include continued investments in education, including contributions to UWI, totaling totaling $5.9 million. Scholarships and grants, including international scholarships, totaling $30 million. Grants to independent schools, totaling $12.9 million. And contributions to the University of the Bahamas, amounting to $22.7 million. Capital expenditure, Madam Speaker. Regarding capital expenditure, spending increased by $30.9 million totaling 266 million, which accounted for 77.2% of the budget. This increase was driven by net investments for road repairs across New Providence and the Family Islands, investments in airport infrastructure, school ground improvements and digitalization projects in schools, the acquisition of medical equipment, and building resilience in public safety and order through acquisition of CCTVs and other security and communication equipments, military, police, and prison equipment, and firearms and ammunition. Deficit performance. The government's fiscal performance for the initial 9 months of the fiscal year showed a 16.6% decrease in the deficit to $178.9 million. This accounted for 1.1% of nominal GDP, compared to 1.4% in the previous year. In dollar terms, the deficit in the previous year was $214.4 million. Since the current administration assumed office, the fiscal deficit has followed a consistent downward trajectory, declining from a peak of $1.3 billion, or 11.9% of revised nominal GDP in financial year 2020-2021, to 1.2% of GDP in the most recent full fiscal year 2023-2024. This represents a notable improvement, particularly when compared to the 2.6% deficit to GDP ratio recorded in the last pre-pandemic fiscal year. That will be 2018-2019. This outcome further foreshadows a positive outcome for the fourth quarter's performance. Madam Speaker, one of the indicators of health, economic health in a nation, is the primary balance performance. And that refers to the difference between the government's total revenue and its non-interest expenditure. This measure provides insight from a fiscal policy perspective into a country's fiscal health. In essence, this represents the parameters of fiscal policy that the government directly controls and are critical to managing debt levels. At the end of March 2025, the primary balance reflected in an increase in the surplus position, equating to 268.47% of nominal GDP. This equated to a 45.7% of the budget forecast. This also represents an improvement over the primary surplus of $194.6 million in the prior fiscal year. And we're still moving.
Yes, sir. Still moving.
And that don't take into account the $357 million I talked about in April. You got talking? Mm-hmm. And that's not included. Madam Speaker, revenue receipts demonstrated strong performance during the 9 months leading up to March 2025, as well as in April 2025. This momentum, coupled with the successful resolution of tax tribunal cases, where 50% of the $100 million in disputes have been settled, is expected to drive a late surge in tax collections and improve overall revenue performance for the year. Despite a notable shortfall in VAT collections from the real estate sector, revenue is still projected to be near its annual forecast. On the expenditure side, public spending has remained aligned with the budget, even after an initial front-loading of payments early in the fiscal year, and is expected to remain contained within its annual forecast. As a result, the fiscal deficit will fall within a range of 0.3% to 0.17% of GDP. However, if we use last year's performance, to extrapolate the projected fiscal balance outturn for this current year, the fiscal will be under 0.3% of GDP. As such, my administration is confident that we will hit our deficit target for the full 2024-25 fiscal year. In the first half of this fiscal year, we experienced a 6-month deficit of $404.1 million. However, for the majority of the second half of this current fiscal year, we have witnessed monthly surpluses. The month of February 2025 experienced a surplus of $58.6 million. The month of March 2025 settled out a surplus of $169.6 million. And as I mentioned earlier in this communication, the first fiscal performance for April 25, which is near 357 in revenues, what we suggest that the strong revenue performance, our preliminary data shows April at a surplus position of $135.4 million. So again, Madam Speaker, it is due to the second half performance that we feel confident in reaching a deficit within our target range of 0.3 to 0.7% of GDP. Our debt performance, Madam Speaker. At the end of March 2025, total central government debt, $4.7 billion. Domestic currency debt accounted for $6.4 billion, or 54.7% of total central government debt. Foreign currency debt accounted for $5.3 billion, or 45.3% of total central government debt. Over the period, the debt to GDP ratio has been trending downwards as the government stands firm on its debt strategy and achieving its midterm debt target. As such, at end of March 2025, the debt stock equated to 72.9% of GDP, a decrease from the ratio of 73.2% at the end of December 2024. Over the past 9 months of this fiscal year, the financing mix included the following transactions. On the domestic front, net borrowings comprised of government securities that totaled $332.9 million and central bank advances that amounted to $120. This was offset by net repayments on bank loans that totaled $7.6 million. In terms of foreign currency, a net borrowing of $244.4 million in commercial bank loans was offset by net redemption of international bonds amounting to $218.2 million and scheduled net payments to international development agencies totaling $99.4 million. Credit ratings. Madam Speaker, historically, the government has relied on 2 rating agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, to assess its creditworthiness. Recently, we have expanded this approach by engaging Fitch Ratings, providing a third independent perspective. In April of this year, Fitch Ratings assigned the Bahamas a BB- rating with a stable outlook. This rating reflects the country's high GDP per capita, robust and stable governance, and continued efforts towards fiscal consolidation. The inaugural BB- credit rating from Fitch marks a significant milestone in the Bahamas' credit recovery and re-rating trajectory. Additionally, in April, Moody's upgraded its outlook for the Bahamas from stable to positive for the first time in 17 years. This upgrade was driven by several factors. Significant improvements in the country's fiscal soundness and debt profile, supported by strong fiscal consolidation over the past 2 years. The achievement of a primary surplus, enhanced revenue collection alongside disciplined expenditure management, and a solid institutional framework and a stable political system. These positive developments underscore the country's progress toward a stronger and more sustainable fiscal future, enhancing investor confidence and solidifying the Bahamas' position in the global financial markets. Similarly, back in September 2023, Standard & Poor's Global Ratings had reaffirmed the Bahamas credit rating at B+ with a stable outlook. This decision reflected the resilience of our economy, particularly driven by the tourism sector, which played a pivotal role in facilitating fiscal improvements and moderating the growth of total debt accumulation. These strategic measures implemented by this administration to address both financing and refinancing needs, coupled with the stability of our political environment, have instilled confidence in our ability to effectively manage risks and maintain macroeconomic stability. Madam Speaker, as I read in my mid-year address, this administration remains resolute in its commitment to securing an investment-grade credit rating within the next 3 years, starting in the upcoming fiscal year. Achieving this milestone by the fiscal year 2028-2029 is not merely symbolic. It is a strategic imperative that will unlock greater economic opportunity, reduce borrowing costs, and enhance investor confidence in our nation's future. To this end, we are focused on strengthening 4 critical economic indicators: GDP per capita as a measure of national productivity, central government debt as a percentage of GDP, revenue as a percentage of GDP to support essential public services and long-term development, and interest expenses as a percentage of overall revenue, a critical indicator of fiscal sustainability. With our GDP projections expected to fully capture economic activity within the next 3 years, we have confidently reached investment-grade status. GDP per capita has risen by 27.7%, increasing from $30,400 in 2024 to $38,900 in 2020. $30,400 in 2021 to $38,900 in 2024. On a year-over-year basis, it grew by 2.7%, up from $37,900 in 2023. Based on regional benchmarks, long-term growth prospects, and the current economic environment, we are targeting an annual GDP per capita of approximately $44,000 by 2029. Revenue to GDP has also improved significantly, rising from 17% in fiscal year 2021 to 19.7% in financial year 2023-2024. For the current fiscal year, as previously planned, we had set a target of 22.1%. To meet the requirements of an investment-grade rating, we must continue to enhance our revenue mobilization efforts. Accordingly, we project that the total revenue will reach 23.5% of GDP in fiscal year 2025-2026 and increase to 25% thereafter. On the fiscal front, we have made substantial strides in reducing the national debt burden. As of the end of June 2024, central government debt stood at 72.7% of GDP, a marked improvement from the 88.7% at the end of June. While this progress is commendable, we recognize that sustainable debt levels are essential for long-term resilience. International best practices suggest that public debt should not exceed 1/2 of country's output. In alignment with this, the Fiscal Strategy Report 2025 outlines our commitment to reducing the central government debt to GDP ratio to 50% by 2030-2031. Based on internal estimates and expected policy changes, we expect to be near this target by financial year 2028 to 2029. In addition to reducing the desired debt, we are also focusing on reducing the cost of carrying it. In financial year 2020-2021, interest expense accounted for approximately 22.1% of total government revenue, decreasing to 20% in financial year 2023-2024. Our objective is to further reduce this ratio to 10% by 2028-2029. These achievements reflect the hard work and discipline of our institutions, the resilience of our economy, and the trust you have placed in the government, the people have placed in the government. We are on the right path, but we must stay on course. Amen. Together, we will build a stronger, more prosperous, and more resilient nation for generations to come. We have already undertaken measures through a series of comprehensive reforms. These include reducing both the deficit and debt levels, implementing the country's first major nationwide energy reforms, implementing mitigation for climate risk and exposure to external shocks through initiatives like the Coastal Protection, disaster risk programs, disaster insurance, as well as principal deferment programs in times of disaster. Implementing tax reforms to diversify government revenue and align with international best practices. Utilizing credit-enhanced external financing to lower debt costs and interest expenses. Reforming the BSD debt market to improve capacity and liquidity, and enhancing the collection of economic statistics. In respect to our medium-term debt management strategy, Madam Speaker, we have made significant strides in reducing reliance on costly external commercial debt. By shifting our focus to more favorable domestic concessional financing from multilateral institutions such as the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, that we recently joined as a member. We are lowering borrowing costs and enhancing our resilience through the stability of the domestic market. Additionally, we have successfully extended the average maturity of our debt, reducing refinancing risk and improving debt sustainability. This aligns with our long-term fiscal goals, easing short-term debt pressures and creating more stable financing conditions. As part of our borrowing strategy, we plan to increase the use of export credit facilities, which are loan funding guaranteed by export credit agencies to finance the purchase of goods and services from the countries providing them. Given the success of these arrangements, this administration is looking to finance the construction of the new glass window bridge and other projects using a similar facility within a new fiscal year. These advancements reflect our commitment to prudent fiscal management and achievement of central government debt levels at 50% of GDP by fiscal year 2030-2031. Madam Speaker, upholding our prudent and strategic debt management approach has led to several positive outcomes. One of the most notable being the successful execution of the Debt Conversion for Nature Conservation transaction. This innovative transaction was designed to reduce the national debt while simultaneously addressing the country's pressing environmental concerns, particularly in preserving unique biodiversity and ecosystem. The success of this transaction was widely recognized in the global financial community. As a result, the Bahamas was invited to participate in the prestigious 2025 Global Capital Latin America Bond Awards. This transaction, Madam Speaker, the bond, this transaction was nominated in 3 categories at the awards and ultimately won the highly coveted award for the ESG Deal of the Year. This achievement, Madam Speaker, not only strengthens our international reputation, but also shows our ongoing commitment to sustainable development, fiscal responsibility, and protecting our natural resources. I also want to bring to the attention of this Honorable House that the 2025 Fiscal Strategy Report will be tabled today. This report follows the guidelines set by the Public Finance Management Act, demonstrating the government's commitment to budget credibility, transparency, and fiscal sustainability. It outlines the government's medium-term fiscal framework, which serves as the foundation for shaping the 2025-2026 budget, annual borrowing plan, and medium-term debt strategy. As mentioned earlier, BNSI recently revised its GDP methodology to better capture the economic activity throughout the Bahamas. However, the GDP is a crucial economic base, widely used throughout our fiscal analysis. This has prompted key adjustments to our fiscal framework. Accordingly, the revenue target for 2025-26 has been reduced from 25% to 23.5% of GDP to align with the updated economic base. Nonetheless, the government remains committed to restoring the revenue to GDP ratio to 25% over the medium term through a comprehensive tax policy alignment. It is important to emphasize that this technical adjustment does not constitute a departure from fiscal discipline. Global inflationary pressures have increased costs in the Bahamas, necessitating a move from the government to raise the concurrent expenditure ceiling from 20% to 20.8% of GDP. Starting in 2025-2026, the overall capital expenditure to GDP ratio is maintained at 3.5%. These adjustments reflect a dynamic, data-driven approach to fiscal planning, anchored in sound public financial management with national development priorities. Considering these developments, I wish to inform this Honorable House that we are tabling the necessary resolutions during this budget to formally adjust relevant fiscal targets in line with the updated economic assumptions and policy priorities. I now turn to the budget estimates for 2025 and 2026. The budget estimates for total revenue amounts to $3.89 million, or 23.6% of GDP. Total expenditure is expected to amount to $3.82 billion, or 23.1% of GDP. Of this, the current expenditure accounts for $3.44 billion, or 20.8% of GDP, and capital expenditure for $376.3 million, or 2.3% of GDP. The fiscal surplus is estimated at $75 million, or 0.5% of GDP, with the primary balance showing a surplus of 4.5% of GDP. Given this, the debt to GDP ratio has been projected at 68.9% of GDP at the end of fiscal year 25-26. For the first time, Madam Speaker, for the first time in our history, as an independent nation, a Minister of Finance will be tabling a balanced budget, evidence that fiscal discipline can coexist for national progress. We accomplished this. I want to repeat this. We accomplished this without sacrificing development priorities or slowing the pace of investment. We did it without resorting to reckless cuts or firing dedicated employees just to claim a quick win. This balanced budget is the result of careful planning, responsible leadership, and a steadfast commitment to the Bahamian people. And it is our continued commitment to fiscal responsibility that will allow us to continue making game-changing investments in our country and in our people. And Speaker, the remaining portion of my communication will focus on detailing the fiscal measures that form the foundation of this budget. These policy changes are not made lightly. Each one is guided by a core principle of economic activity should be shared equitably across sectors, communities, and generations. I repeat that principle. The burden and benefits of economic activity should be shared equitably across sectors, communities, and generations. This year's revenue measures are structured around 6 major themes: affordability, environmental health, marine protection and development, modernizing operations, tax measures update, and private cruise destinations. Madam Speaker, due to the recent effects of global inflation, economies around the world, including the Bahamas, have faced significant price increases. As a result, Bahamian families have struggled under the weight of high prices for food, household items, and basic hygiene. This administration understands their difficulty, and in this budget, we are acting decisively to bring relief to the people. As part of the ongoing efforts to promote affordability, we will be reducing the VAT rate to 5% on a range of products that are crucial for the well-being of our citizens. These include baby diapers.
Yes.
Okay. That's Pampers.
Yes.
They're baby diapers.
Mothers.
Children. Depends. Elderly. Right? Feminine hygiene products. Prescription and non-prescription drugs. And Madam Speaker, that includes medications for those with chronic conditions. Medical and dental supplies.
Yes.
Medical and dental supplies. Such as needles. Yes. Blood pressure machine, lancets, dental cements, and other dental fillings. And of course, other medical and therapeutic items, such as cell therapy products.
Finally, I see a smile.
Madam Speaker, these reductions in 2025, they are aimed at ensuring that Bahamians of all ages and stages of life can access essential products without the added burden of a higher tax. Under the amended VAT Act, we are also extending VAT relief on building materials for religious institutions in recognition of their vital role in supporting and uplifting communities. This VAT relief will come in the form of VAT-exempt imports or as a refund system if purchased locally. In addition, customs duty is being removed from digital and changeable letter signs, making it more affordable for them to enhance their visibility and communication efforts. We're also reducing customs duties on dozens of essential items, products that Bahamians purchase every week, items that matter in every kitchen, every bathroom, every nursery, and every home. We're helping families, homeowners, and small contractors by removing the customs duty on the following items: refractory cement, mortars and concrete, and similar compositions, copper fittings, screws and nuts and bolts. What's up, laughing? but essential hardware. Further this, Further this, duty on the following items is being reduced: cleaning products, electric or battery-operated shavers, juice extractors, trucks weighing 20 tons and above, and filters of all kinds from water to air conditioning filters. We are also taking steps to reduce the cost of fuel sources used by numerous households. We are removing the 45% excise duty on butane fuel. Mostly used in portable stoves. Many Bahamians rely on this fuel for a hot meal, whether day-to-day or during emergencies. This is part of our broader commitment to build resilience and affordability into everyday life, especially where it may help the most. The Bahamas is committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2030 and achieving net zero emissions in line with the Paris Agreement. Our clean energy transition includes expanding renewable energy, promoting electric vehicles, and improving energy efficiency through key initiatives and projects. Duty exemptions on household appliances with the highest level of energy efficiency will be granted. Repeat that. Duty exemptions on household appliances with the highest level of energy efficiency will be granted. Freezers, air conditioners, gas and electric water heaters will all be duty-free once confirmed that the appliance will make a positive impact on climate change initiatives. These exemptions are designed to encourage Bahamians to adopt cleaner technologies, directly contributing to our climate goals and a sustainable future for us all. In addition to these measures, prefabricated homes can now be built with the prior approval of the Minister of Works.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a brilliant move.
Every Bahamian has the right to safe food, clean environments, and healthy communities. To support this, we are introducing new measures in the upcoming fiscal year that are practical, fair, and more focused on protecting public health. The Bahamian marine environment, Madam Speaker, is one of our greatest treasures, rich in biodiversity, cultural significance, and economic value. Yet, for far too long, its use has been under-regulated and its protection underfunded. This budget marks a turning point. We are introducing targeted measures to ensure that those who benefit from our marine space also contribute to its sustainability. To better support our marine environment and support long-term stewardship of our waters, we will introduce a framework to implement an environmental levy on seabed leases for commercial activity to reflect the true value of our marine territory. Enforcing a cruising permit fee for tenders and boats 25 feet or larger, ensuring every vessel has its own valid permit. Introduce environmental penalties to discourage harmful and preserve the health of our marine ecosystem. These measures are not discouraging use. They are not about discouraging use. They are about encouraging responsible use. They are about ensuring that those who enjoy our waters also help to preserve them and for future generations of Bahamians to inherit an ocean that is abundant, healthy, and protected. We owe it to our people and to the sea that sustains us. Early in my communication, I mentioned the award-winning Debt for Nature Conservation transaction. This transaction has unlocked $124 million in funding for marine conservation without increasing our debt burden. Over the next 15 years, annual savings from this agreement will be directed to the Bahamas Protected Area Fund, which will allocate resources to agencies tasked with safeguarding our marine ecosystem. These funds will begin to support the implementation of pre-established conservation targets and ensure long-term environmental stewardship in the upcoming fiscal year. The projected environmental impacts of this initiative are substantial. Enhanced management of 6.8 million hectares of marine protected areas, representing nearly 70% of our nearshore environment. Restoration of critical mangrove ecosystem, which serve as natural buffers against storm surges and provide vital nursery habitats for marine. Strengthen resilience to climate change, particularly in coastal communities vulnerable to rising sea levels and extreme weather events. And the establishment of a $20 million conservation endowment by 2039, ensuring continued funding for marine protection beyond the 15-year term. Madam Speaker, as we continue to prioritize the protection and sustainable, this administration is taking decisive action to strengthen safety and accountability in our waters. Jet ski and motorboat operators will now face fines and fixed penalties for violations of the laws and regulations governing their operations. To strengthen enforcement, we will create a maritime revenue unit within the Ministry of Finance. In addition, members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, the Defense Force, port officers, and other designated authorities will be empowered to issue notices, impound non-compliant vessels, and where necessary, dispose of such vessels at the owner's expense. Operators of motorboats and jet skis have a duty of care to their passengers and to the public. They are expected to be fully informed of and compliant with all relevant safety protocols and regulatory requirements. Amendments to the law have been made to provide for fixed penalty and fixed penalty notices. The government is committed to ensuring that our marine spaces remain safe, orderly, and enjoyable for all. Our oceans and coastlines are some of our greatest assets. They feed our people, power our tourism, and protect our communities. Taking care of them means healthier fish stocks, stronger livelihoods, and more chances to grow our blue economy. When we look after, we are looking after our future. Madam Speaker, this budget is not only about providing relief. It is also about building a smarter, fairer, and more modern Bahamas. This is why this government will put in place the proper policies and frameworks that were long needed. We will establish the Asset Disposal Assessment Unit, which will examine fiscal government assets and recommend the optimal method for disposal. They will recommend whether public assets should be transferred to another public entity, sold, recycled, destroyed, or in any other method they will see fit. The Asset Disposal Assessment Unit will assist in the promotion of accountability, honesty, and transparency for public assets which are no longer for its purposed use. Not only will the process be streamlined, there will also be a record of government disposals. Public officers will be required to report if they have received overpayments for the disposal of non-financial government capital. For too long, certain systems have remained outdated with inefficiencies that frustrate Bahamians and drain public resources. In this budget, we are taking meaningful steps to modernize how government works, how it taxes, and how it charges, and how it serves. When it comes to real property tax, fairness is our guiding principle. Owners of derelict properties will be eligible for a waiver or credit on all outstanding property tax arrears once those properties are repaired and made habitable again.
Excellent.
To ensure transparency and fairness, we will put in place a pre-approved process to confirm the property's derelict status before any repairs begin. To promote equity among the real property tax base, we are better defining owner-occupied and removing its seasonality, by replacing it with a defined period for foreign homeowners. Foreign homeowners will qualify for the partial owner-occupied exemption for property values of up to $300,000 if they stay more than 90 days in the Bahamas. If they stay more than 183 days, full exemption will be applied, which includes both the residential cap and the $300,000 exemption tied to value. The Bahamas, Madam Speaker, has long been a haven for private yachts and aircrafts. But our administrative systems have not kept pace with this reality. That changes now. We will introduce the frequent visitors digital card to make entry smoother and compliance simpler for private vessels and aircraft that visit our shores regularly. For private boats, each vessel will be required to have its own card linked directly to its registration number. This card will be valid for 2 years and is intended exclusively for cruising, not for fishing or anchoring. For private aircraft, a separate card will be introduced for propeller-driven planes, tied, not just the propeller planes, tied to the plane's serial number. Just as with boats, the card is strictly for leisure travel. It does not cover commercial activities or charters. This suite of measures reflects a government committed to fairness, modernization, and respect for those who invest in the Bahamas. We are moving forward with purpose and with Bahamians in mind every step of the way. As part of this budget, Madam Speaker, we're also taking steps to strengthen our corporate tax framework in line with international standards. I wish to remind this Honorable House that the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Act was enacted on the 29th of November 2024 and came into effect. This legislation implements the OECD's Pillar 2 framework by introducing a 15% minimum effective tax rate for large multinational enterprise groups operating in the Bahamas. This is a major step forward in ensuring that large global companies pay their fair share in jurisdictions where they conduct substantial business. The DMTT is projected to generate approximately a minimum of $130 million, or 0.7% of GDP, of new revenue in the upcoming fiscal year for the Bahamian people. This government plans to introduce the Business Development Incentives Program Act. This act will encourage further development in our country through incentives for eligible licensees under the Business License Act with an annual turnover greater than $50 million. These incentives will benefit Bahamians by encouraging local investment activities which create jobs, build local capacity, and use of Bahamian goods and services. Whether it's hiring more Bahamians, training staff, or investing in innovation and sustainability, this program rewards companies that deepen their footprint and impact in the Bahamas. It is a forward-looking tool to drive inclusive economic growth, support the family islands, and align private sector investment with our national development goals. Madam Speaker, cruise tourism in the Bahamas has come a long way. What began as a modest stream of floating leisure, has now become an economic powerhouse. In 2024 alone, cruise visitors numbered $9.4 million, an increase of 20.3% over the previous year, and representing a staggering 83.4% of the total tourist arrivals. These numbers are not just impressive, they are transformative. But while cruise volumes have soared, the sector's direct contribution to government revenue has not kept pace. The growth in the private cruise destinations, where premium offshore activities like cabana rentals that now fetch as high as $4,000 per day, yet these earnings often flow offshore with limited or no benefit to the Bahamian taxpayer. Today's cruise ships are not just modes of transportation, they are floating resorts, complete with their own entertainment, retail, and shore excursion operations. When they dock at our shores, particularly at private islands, they often offers excursions from horseback riding and nature trails to zip lining, balloon rides, beach clubs, and shopping villages. These experiences have contributed to the growth of our GDP over the past 3 years. Madam Speaker, this budget reflects our intent to modernize and regulate this critical sector in a way that upholds 4 key principles: fairness and equity, and enhanced compliance and oversight for a critical sector of the Bahamian economy. In keeping with these principles, our budget introduces targeted compliance measures to ensure cruise-related activities contribute fairly and meaningfully to our national development. These lines have acknowledged the importance of compliance and will continue to work with us to ensure that this happens in a sustainable and mutually respectful manner. These compliance measures will have a focus on enforcement of custom duties, VAT on all imports to the private cruise destinations, immigration work permit fees for all employees, the Communications Act and Electricity Act application in respect to private utilities operating on the various private cruise destinations, VAT on all services offered for value on the islands, and the government's policy for the rental of recreational watercraft, which is reserved for Bahamians. Madam Speaker, we expect that the economic activity on the private cruise destinations will be the biggest driver of GDP growth in the next 3 to 5 years, which underscores the importance of the information I've just shared. I now turn to expenditure measures in the budget, which are strategic, targeted, and designed to deliver results. As I mentioned at the outset, many of our key investments, opportunity, affordability, and reform. We are making additional unprecedented investments in our national security during the coming fiscal year. These investments span the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Royal Bahamas Defense Force, Bahamas Department of Correctional Services, and other key security agencies. The security of our borders is fundamental to the sovereignty and safety of our nation. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force will benefit from strategic investments, including modernization of key bases at Coral Harbor and Inagua, upgrades to the defense fleet, and specialized equipment, including aircraft refurbishments, which will improve aerial surveillance, mobility, and response time. To strengthen our presence on the front lines, we are significantly increasing manpower. The expanded workforce will support greater enforcement, faster processing, and a more visible presence at our ports of entry and throughout the Family Island. In addition, in New Providence, Resources have been allocated for the construction of a boundary wall, enhanced surveillance systems, and general improvements to the detention center. And in Grand Bahama, additional resources are earmarked for the renovation of the detention center, modernizing the facility to meet national safety and security standards. Regarding the police force, we are recruiting new officers and civilian personnel to strengthen presence and response capabilities in New Providence and Freeport. Resources are also provided for IT modernization, including surveillance cameras, digital forensic tools, and upgrades to the AFIS Ademia system, enhancing investigation capacity and real-time policing. To further support public safety, procure modern fire trucks, protective gear, and specialized firefighting tools. Construct a new fire station through a public-private partnership, delivering critical infrastructure costs effectively, and planning for a new police headquarters to improve command operations and interagency coordination. We are also expanding nationwide communication systems and CCTV networks to reinforce surveillance in high-risk areas. Additional technologies will be deployed to block illegal inmate communications and prevent drone deliveries into secure facilities. Madam Speaker, we are bolstering the capacity of our correctional system with support for the hiring of new recruits and uniform allowances, procurement of body-worn cameras, and investments in advanced surveillance contracts to prevent unauthorized deliveries and improve perimeter security. To improve judicial efficiency and to build on early investments in new courts, the government is allocating resources to expand the virtual courts platform, reducing backlogs and delays in court proceedings. This government's comprehensive approach to national security through investments in personnel, technology, and infrastructure ensures that the Bahamas remains ready to face emerging threats. We are making strategic investments in energy, infrastructure, and the digital upgrades across the country. We are going to create the conditions necessary to generate new opportunities, and then we are going to make sure Bahamians are ready for those opportunities. Our new energy era reforms are critical. We decided there was no way to create a 21st century economy with a 20th century energy grid. That's why we are overseeing our country's first, another first, nationwide comprehensive energy reforms. High prices and unreliable electricity affect everyone and have held back our businesses, made them less competitive, raised operating costs, and acted as a drag on our economic growth. PPL has been operating a very old system that in some places is held together by the equivalent of what I call the duct tape. There's a reason previous governments struggled to fix the problems. There's a reason that it's incredibly complicated and incredibly expensive. You know, when we came in office, PPL had a legacy debt of over $500 million. But I was not willing to kick the can down the road. Not with critical parts of our energy grid dating back to pre-independence and on the verge of collapse. Not with adjustment. We have been burning dirty, expensive fuels and paying a lot to do it. And of course, we don't just have one grid. We have different islands with different needs, all of which need attention. So we decided we needed comprehensive reform. No more quick fixes, no more Band-Aids, no more patching things up today in a way that means they break again tomorrow. Putting energy reform together has taken a lot of careful planning. But now we are finally updating transmission and distribution in New Providence. For the first time, utility-scale solar power will be integrated into the grid. We will have solar power throughout our family islands, where new hybrid microgrids will incorporate solar power and natural gas, allow us to eliminate expensive PPL rentals, replace aging generation units, and establish battery storage systems. Energy reform is going to be a game changer, delivering lower prices, increased reliability, and a grid that is stronger during storms. and we are using clean energy and meeting our commitment to union workers of job and pension security guaranteed. I'm also pleased to say we are working with different payment partners throughout the islands. We are transforming how we generate and transmit energy across the country. We are going to have a modern grid that delivers reliable electricity at a reasonable price. And no doubt you'll hear more about this when you hear from the Minister of Energy, the Energizer Bunny from Elizabeth. We are also making transformative investments in infrastructure. We are undertaking comprehensive roadworks across New Providence and the Family Islands, delivering long-awaited improvements. These major initiatives include the completion of major roadworks in Exuma, Eleuthera, and Cat Island, with a total investment of $250 million, bringing relief to residents and businesses. The commencement of road rehabilitation in San Salvador, beginning a new phase of development for that island's infrastructure. The Long Island Road Improvement Project, where a $22 million contract has been signed to rehabilitate and upgrade key roadworks across that island. And of course, the Harbor Island dock upgrade, enhancing access, safety, and rehabilitation, one of our most vital transportation hubs. I was calling you to let you know that the contract was signed.
No, not you.
He said he was trying to reach you. I will try to reach you. I will try to reach you, but not Lutra. It's signed on Lutra. Oh yeah, future pride. Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. No, Lutra. There's nothing wrong to having a mission. Don't let it discourage you. To improve delivery. Don't let me discourage you. To improve delivery capacity and project efficiency across all of our infrastructure programs, we have secured a $90 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank to strengthen Bahamix, the state-owned enterprise road paving and building company in the Bahamas. This investment will enhance project management system, comprehensive road and drainage improvement program in New Providence. It will be focused on resurfacing major thoroughfares, improving drainage and flood-prone areas, and upgrading sidewalks, signage, and lighting near schools, clinics, and key public facilities. Along with these infrastructure investments, we will be making significant investments in school repairs across the Bahamas. And as part of ongoing efforts to ensure access to clean and reliable water, we are advancing several high-impact projects through the Water and Sewage Corporation, including the Joe Farrington Road Water Project, the Glasson Road Wastewater Treatment Plant, upgrades to the water systems in Exuma, South Andros, North Acklands, and ongoing recovery efforts in Abaco Post-Orient. Additionally, investments in national water security, such as the Aqua Design buyout, the buying of Aqua Design. Consolidated Water and the MEA Water Efficiency Program, they were funded during the mid-year budget. These initiatives are helping to reduce water losses, improve delivery, and ensure sustainable access to clean water for all Bahamians. Madam Speaker, recognizing the critical role of our air connectivity in national development, we are launching a major aviation infrastructure development program using separately sourced financing. As part of this initiative, airport upgrades and expansions are in Exuma, Cat Island, and Eleuthera, strengthening tourism, trade, and mobility for these key islands. Through these strategic capital works and public utility enhancement, this government is not only upgrading physical infrastructure, but also expanding economic activities and building a resilient Bahamas for generations to come. The investments I've outlined will create conditions necessary to grow our economy and create new opportunities. Talking about the airport, I think Black Point is to be included in that. Crooked Island and Auckland is included in that. Long Island is on the way.
Yes,
The
coming
minister,
Long Island.
the Minister of Aviation,
Coming Long Island.
the Minister of Aviation, the Deputy Prime Minister will be speaking in more details about these investments. I forget you? Yeah. It's also, it's really important to me to emphasize that our investment in education and training and upskilling and up in many different fields require different kinds of aptitudes and talents and encompass different kinds of support. We are investing in traditional scholarships to universities. Yes, that is the right path for some. But we are also massively expanding our investment in BTVI. I don't want to see applications for work permits, for top-paying specialty work I know Bahamians can do with the proper training. We are going to expand BTVI's capacity so many more Bahamians have the opportunity to learn the kinds of skills and trades that can form a very profitable business. We are also launching the Bahamas Polytechnic Accreditation and Training Hub this academic year, creating technical and vocational pathways to graduation and lucrative careers. We are investing $2.6 million in new funding for the National Maritime Academy for Bahamians interested in careers in the blue economy. And it is with great excitement that I announce that this year, our upskill program will begin to enroll Bahamians in paid certification courses online, as well as hosting important in-person sessions for Bahamians looking to improve their skills or gain certifications across a range of fields and industries. The scale and pace of change is extraordinary. The scale and pace of change is extraordinary. Artificial intelligence and digital technologies are reshaping industries, creating new opportunities, and yes, sometimes replacing old ways of working. The jobs of tomorrow will not be the same as those of yesterday, but this is not a reason for fear. It is a call to action. The skills we have today may not be enough for the challenges and opportunities of tomorrow. To thrive, we must of continuous learning and adaptability. It's a challenge I know that Bahamians are up for. Upskill is for everyone. Young people entering the workforce, parents returning to work or interested in switching fields, experienced professionals seeking new horizons, and those who simply wish to strengthen the fundamentals. Financial literacy, data science, business planning, marketing, design, artificial intelligence. These are important skills in today's marketplace. And I want every Bahamian who's interested to have access to education and certification in these fields. Upskill is going to bridge the gap between our islands and the global world of work, enabling Bahamians to work remotely, start digital businesses, and access international opportunities. I believe we can change the brain drain into a brain gain. Remote work opportunities will allow Bahamians who want to live here at home, to have access to professional development and high incomes. And upskill is only the beginning. New technology will allow us to transform the classrooms, workplaces, and clinics. We can build access to online education and skills building to support our teachers and schools. We can use telemedicine services to support patients and healthcare professionals in our clinics for faster and more accurate diagnosis and for prescribing treatment plans. Madam Speaker, the cost of living has always been the crisis of the last several years, raised prices beyond what many families can endure. A small country like ours will always be impacted by global events, but we can grow stronger. We can reduce our vulnerability to rising prices where it matters most. And there is no reason we can't grow more of our food here at home. We are making substantial and important new investments in developing agriculture, including expansion of grants to Bahamians. We can create a new wave of successful Bahamian entrepreneurs, keep more of our money inside the country, and lower prices for families. We want both small-scale operations and larger food production companies run and operate by Bahamians to become much bigger players in our country and region. 21st century farming does not look like the old days. This is big business. Food security is an important national priority, and our new Center for Food and Nutrition Security will serve as a multidisciplinary technical hub advancing national food and nutrition security. Through cutting-edge research, policy innovation, and community-based initiatives. In the upcoming year, the Center will lead a series of transformative initiatives to strengthen national resilience and food sovereignty, including establishing urban farms and community food hubs to increase local food access, promote self-reliance, and support neighborhood-based food systems, addressing health-related challenges linked to food insecurity, training farmers in climate-smart agriculture practices to enhance productivity while promoting environmental sustainability and resilience to climate change, and establishing seed banks and promoting native crop varieties to preserve biodiversity, ensure seed availability, and support culturally appropriate food systems. Over the past year, the administration has transformed our agricultural and marine sectors through decisive action and strategic investment. We launched our National Layer and Piggery Program, distributing over 10,000 chicks and 3,000 adult chickens. We also equipped farmers across Cat Island, Exuma Islands, and other islands with tractors and other essential equipment. Today, we are scaling those initiatives while making vital new investments. The Golden Yoke Project has a large role to play in our plans for food security. We are investing $9 million for the construction of permanent buildings capable of housing 25,000 chicks, 1,000 hens, and an egg processing facility with capacity to process 8,000 eggs per hour. This past week, we signed an MOU to construct 5 hydroponic farms in New Providence, Grand Bahama, Abaco, Andros, and Cat Island, as we embrace modern farming techniques that can provide healthy produce to even our most remote islands. BAMC is expanding its academic mission with 302 enrolled students and strategic partnerships with Prairie View A&M, Athens State, and Stanford University, providing our youth with world-class educational opportunities. Of course, we are ensuring that scholarships are available for those who wish to launch careers in agriculture and marine sciences. Overall, we are increasing support to farmers by 200% and expanding the overall agricultural budget from $25 million to $35 million.
Yes.
Our commitment to entrepreneurial empowerment has yielded remarkable progress across diverse sectors of our economy, demonstrating that inclusive growth requires intentional investment in every segment of our society. Through our with Disabilities program, developed in partnership with Youth, Sports, and Culture, and the National Disabilities Commission, we have shattered barriers that prevented members of that community from launching enterprises. Our fly fishing initiative will help Bahamians build sustainable enterprises in this fast-growing, lucrative industry while preserving our natural heritage. The grant recipients for the upcoming round of funding will be announced in the very near future. The crafting the Bahamas Creative Entrepreneurs Initiatives represents an innovative approach to the creative economy development. With 99 registrants spanning from Grand Bahama to Maguana, this program showcases authentic Bahamian artisans across our entire archipelago. Their work will be featured on the Tingsea Marketplace, which helps Family Island entrepreneurs to access larger markets. Recognizing the need for support, our Men in Business program has already transformed lives through 2 strategic cohorts, approving $566,824.71 for 64 businesses in Cohort 1 and $114,192.03 for 13 Family Island enterprises in Cohort 2, while training 262 men through our Business Blueprint course. And our upcoming Blue Economy Accelerator, developed at the Nature Conservancy, the Inter-American Development Bank, represents another innovative step for Blue Economy entrepreneurs. This is a part of our expansive approach to supporting local entrepreneurs. We are pouring millions into the SBDC, recapitalizing BDB, making new investments into the Venture Capital Investment Fund, and expanding the TDC's capacity to support tourism-based entrepreneurs through programs like the Sun, Sand, and Souvenirs Incubation Center and the Home Sweet Home Initiative to help Bahamians enter the vacation home rental market. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, our talented, extraordinary citizens are the reason I'm so hopeful about the future. It is our responsibility to create an environment that allows their talents to shine and an economy that allows them to rise up. We recognize the incredible diversity of talent we have, so we are creating educational and training programs that support a range of interests and skills, from our National Youth Guard to Blue Economy maritime opportunities, to new entrepreneurs, to farmers, and many more. We are ready to support Bahamians who want to work hard and create and seize new opportunities. This is how we are going to close the gap between our national potential and our national reality. And it is one Bahamian at a time.
I like that idea. National potential and national reality.
Yeah. Madam Speaker, many components of this budget carry forward the work we began when we came into office, work that has laid a strong foundation for progress. At the same time, we are introducing new measures that respond directly to the challenges we face today, and that move us closer to the aspirations we share for tomorrow. Next week, I look forward to opening the budget debates. That will be my opportunity to speak in greater detail about the investments that we are making, investments in our people, in our country, in our future. Right now, I want to leave you with a sense of my deep optimism for the country we are building together. Let me be clear. Optimism is not the same as complacency. We know there is a great deal of work ahead. And we know that the road will not always be easy. But together, we will steer this country forward with purpose, with determination.
Yes.
Hope reigns eternal. Madam Speaker.
Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.